Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 67. We got some Dynasty sells for you. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy and as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. Please join the Dynasty Theory Discord and like, comment, and subscribe. I got McSpanky and Holler in here tonight. How's it going, guys?
It's good, man. I'm playing through a bit of an injury here. On my way into my office, I slammed my foot in the door. I didn't tell you guys this is live breaking info. I don't know. That's special. I don't know how I did it.
You got the grit of Dan Campbell.
Dude, I'm ready to bite some kneecaps, bro. Let's go.
Jeez, hopefully you're only on the, hope you're not on the IR.
I might start on the POP. I should come off.
Just pup.
Yeah, just the pup. I should come off. It's precautionary.
Should we hop right into the news?
Yeah, this is the big news for you.
Yeah.
Curious to get your take on this.
Jared Goff, first of his name, king of the NFC North, signs an extension with the Lions. 4 years, $212 million. I talked to Mitch a little bit about it, and it sounds like it's pretty market average kind of for the going rate for quarterback. Didn't sound like they overpaid him by too much. Of course, he's going to get a little bit extra, being, when the timing of when you sign basically is I expect to see more quarterback contracts come out, and then Jared Goff looks great. And, 2 to 3 years when we look back at the contract, sometimes when you look at it, when it first happens, it's like, oh my God, that's so much money. And then everybody else gets their deal and you're like, oh, now we're back down to like middle of the pack. So
it seems like a lot of money, but I think it's like spot on with market and everything, right? So, and I think he earned it, right? So I was kind of looking at the news, in our Discord, and so it was, Coach Dan posted in there that the Lions have awarded over $444 million in contract extension this offseason. It sounds like a lot of money, right? It is a lot of money. But they're locked up 3 really, really good guys. Jared Goff, Amon St. Brown, and then Penny Sewell, right? Their offense is going to be so good for the next couple of years, right? So, I think it is a lot of money, but with the QB landscape, I think Jared Goff kind of earned it a little bit. As a Rams fan, I kind of don't think Jared could get them all the way, but I think the Lions have enough pieces for like their defense to help out, and they have the pieces there to help out. So I think it is well earned.
All right. So here's my thought. It's the 6th most guaranteed money given out, $107 million. The guys above them are Hurts, Lamar, Herbert, Burrow, and Deshaun Watson, which that's good. That's good. But anyways, so that's a lot of money for this quarterback, which, it wasn't, there was this time last year where people were talking about, is Jared Goff the long-term answer? Are they going to try to trade up to draft somebody? Like, are they going to let him walk and try to draft one in this class? Like, now we're 1 year removed from that, and there was the Hendon Hooker stands, exactly. Like, does it make you nervous at all? And Ron, especially you as a Lions fan, like that the Lions are now giving this dude all of this money when it was like 12 months ago where people were like, I don't know about Goff, man.
So I fall in where Holler falls in. I don't know that Goff can really propel us over the top with his sole play, but like as a team, I think Goff can get there and could win. Like, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's all because of Jared Goff. You're like, everybody's going to have to pitch in here. I think there's definitely limitations to what he can do with that lack of rushing upside. I think it doesn't totally hamper the offense, obviously, because they're top 10 offense the past 2 years, but it can make things harder when, you can't get out of those plays. We saw it in the NFC Championship. He had to move like one step over, and Bosa, just messed with him just a little bit there, and that's all it takes sometimes. But I also think that when you quarterback a top 10 offense for 2 straight years, you had the years with McVay. There's a few bad years sandwiched there in the middle. He comes back and rebuilds everything in Detroit. I think he does deserve the contract.
Yeah.
How much of it was Ben Johnson, though? compared to
he's
Goff?
been
Because that's my
still
only. That's my only. Well, for now, right? But is he going to
Yeah.
be there for Goff's whole contract? That's my only.
That's fair.
I love
That's fair.
Jared Goff. I root for the dude. He seems like a really good guy. I'm nervous. I'm not fully.
I'm hoping that the
bought in.
systems like are built basically, and when somebody else has to take over for Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, I'm hoping that it's pretty seamless. I honestly I hope that it's an in-house promotion and it's just not some rando. We don't go grab like Kellen Moore or something like that, like to come in here and do something totally different that Goff hasn't been doing. I would like to just keep it the same for him. Maybe it's not the same as when Ben Johnson was there and there is some regression to it. But I think as long as you have that offensive line and you can run the ball the way that they do, it makes it very easy on your quarterback and your offensive coordinator.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is like they're David Montgomery, and then they also have Jamar Gibbs, right? So they're going to have Jamar Gibbs, pretty cheap contract for the 4 next years at least, or 3, and then they have that 5th year. So I just think there's a lot of other pieces on the team that are going to help. But I agree, it's a little scary with that 170 million guaranteed. Like, for the probably the year 3 and 4 are going to be the ones that But I think I agree 100%. Brian Johnson is going to be a big. If he moves on, it will be a big tell who they get, and I think it would be best to get somebody in house, right, and just keep moving forward with what they already have.
So the other question is, what are you doing with Jared Goff now? Does this affect his value at all for you guys? Up, down? Do you sell and buy in, or is it just kind of we kind of knew he was going to get some kind of a deal, and we're going to kind of hold?
Yeah, I'm with right there. I think we kind of knew that he was going to get paid, and we kind of talked about it last week. Like Goff isn't somebody that no matter what he does, like he cannot get any higher in value than that late first or mid to late first, whatever he's going for at this point. Like I don't think he can push any higher above that because of the lack of the rushing upside. He has to throw the touchdowns to make it worth our while.
Yeah, he's sandwiched at in between the picks 110 and 111 on FantasyCalc at QB 19. So he's kind of just right in that.
Yeah, and so I was thinking like he's not going to really move up. He's going to pretty firmly be in that 16 to 20 range, right? Like, he's QB 19 on both, like Dynasty Daddy is what I'm looking at. So I see he could possibly, maybe move above like J.J. McCarthy or Drake May or somebody, or Jayden. Like those are rookies, and so if they don't do well, like he'll leap ahead of them. But like at the highest, I think I could see him going is like QB 16. So I don't think he cracks a top 15. And I just think we kind of know who he is and know what he's going to give us in fantasy. And so if you're kind of going with if you're going like waiting on QBs, he's the perfect guy right there for you in like the 5th, 4th round.
Yeah, he's
a startup. Yeah.
He's like the perfect QB too, because he's never going to screw you.
Yep.
Like and occasionally he does throw for like 4 touchdowns. So
exactly. Yeah, he's very like I think what I really do like about him is he's very like smart with the ball. I think the biggest issue is though when he's trying to run is like he can't get out of situations, and I think that's kind of what hinders on him being like someone that can take over the game and Patrick Mahomes it.
The words that are uttered in my house when I see Jared Goff try to do that little Russell Wilson reverse spin out, because he'll try to do it like, gosh, sometimes I feel like it's at least once a game. He kind of calmed it down this past year, finally. But like, dude, every time I see that, I utter every curse word I can. Everybody leaves the room. Like I can't stand it. Okay, let's move on to these dynasties.
I want to watch a Lions game with you, Ron. I think that
would be fun.
It's very tense. Don't talk shit about the Lions.
Sure.
Especially don't do that. Like sometimes my mom will like poke at me, and then she'll be like, "Why are you so mad?" I'm like, "Why do you think I'm so mad? You're over here poking me about the Lions. We're down. Like you understand the situation here. You know what you're doing." Jeez Louise.
Fantastic.
Okay. Into the cells. So do we want to do it like last week and do everybody's quarterback and then do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay. So for my quarterback, I put Baker. I think the loss of the necromancer, Dave Canales, is going to be tough on him. I think he really reined it in, and we got to see Baker actually play good football, but we've also seen Baker play some pretty bad football, and we don't know what the new offensive coordinator is going to do that they brought in. I believe it's the guy from Kentucky,
Rams,
right?
Liam Cohen
yeah,
from Kentucky. Yeah, but before Kentucky, who was with the Rams. So if he can, bring some of what he learned from Sean McVay, I think he could be okay. But I'm 100% with you there. Like, we don't know. Like, Kentucky was
real
garbage.
Nervous.
So
real nervous.
Yeah. So there's, that's a good one in my opinion. Like, because I think, where does he down at QB? He's down at QB 25 actually. So he's down there pretty low, but I think he could be. Wow. That's low, but I see where you're coming from, just because once he signed that contract and had a good season, people are like, ooh, let's go out and buy him. So I think a year from now, maybe he has an okay season or whatever. He's not like he's gonna go any higher if he's only at QB 25 after having a really good season.
Yeah, I think with Baker you need more proof of him, having that season, because there was so much bad prior to, and man, when things start going bad for Baker, it just snowballs and it gets really bad.
I mean, this is what he's done. So he had that one good year in 2020, right, where he the Browns went to the playoffs, and then after that it went real bad. So that year in 2020 he threw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. The next year was 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and then that's when he went to Carolina the next year after that, and then to the Rams, and then finally kind of had a resurgence in Tampa last year with career high in yardage, 4,700 yards and 34 touchdowns, career highs in both. I mean, they're career years for a reason, right? So generally there's going to be some kind of fall off. He's not going to hit those again, especially with Canales leaving, and there's kind of question marks at quarterback or at offensive coordinator. What did they really make any upgrades to that offense for him? I mean, they brought Godwin or re-signed Evans. Godwin's still there. Trey Palmer, I think, is our wide receiver.
They drafted McMillan.
They drafted Jalen McMillan, who's Holler's boy, but
Bucky Irving too is what else was brought in. So
I called him my boy, but I didn't love the landing spot, because to me he's basically in between a Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, right? So I don't think he's going to see much of the field unless one of them goes down, right? And so we've seen some injuries with Chris Godwin, we've seen some injuries with Mike Evans. So but I just think when one of those two moves on, if he's still there and he's playing at a high level, maybe we can see it then. But I honestly did not love the landing spot there.
Do you think Trey Palmer woke up pissed off after he saw the pick?
I hope so.
Probably, but
the Trey Palmer tweets, every time he woke up pissed off, he would score a touchdown.
Dude, I don't think it happened. Not gonna lie to you, I followed his Twitter account after I saw it the first time, and anytime I saw that, I put him on a DFS lineup. I'm like, we're gonna roll with it. It worked for a couple of times, dude. It kept going for a while.
Yeah.
All right.
So
my boy,
hold on real quick. This is a real trade that happened recently, and I want to hear you guys' side on it. So Baker Mayfield and Jayden Reed.
Real trade.
Okay. Real trade in a real league with real people for Kyle Pitts. So Baker and Jayden Reed for Kyle Pitts.
I'll take Kyle Pitts, and I don't even really believe in Kyle Pitts whatsoever.
I'm smashing Kyle Pitts, and I'm the same thing. I have him lower than most people do, and I saw one today. I just was looking at Dynasty Daddy one today. Baker Mayfield for Kyle Pitts and a one point tight end premium. That's insane to me.
Jeez. Straight up,
yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I saw another one. It's Baker for Kirk Cousins, just straight up, which feels insane.
Baker for Nico Collins. What in the world is going on? These trades, man.
How is this happening?
There's got to be some wacky ass scoring. There's no way, right?
Yeah, so there's something that
it's got to be a minus point per reception Nico Collins league or something.
Start 7 wide receivers. I don't know. Start 6 quarterbacks.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think if you could trade Baker for kind of that fringe 1, early 2-ish, I would do it. Unless you're super hard up for him, then you need a quarterback. But
I traded Baker. This was a while back for 112, straight up.
Yeah.
And I wish I knew exactly what I got for 112, but I'm guessing it was like a Lad McConkey or something like that.
I mean,
yeah. I'm good with it.
I bought a Baker in the off season. I would have to.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Honestly, I regret it like every single day. Every single time I think about it, I'm like, why did I
every day?
Baker?
Every morning,
every day,
3:30 a.m. I wake up in bed
I
and
wake
go,
up.
Baker.
Dang it!
Traded for Baker Mayfield. He I can't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't like outlandish or anything, but I won the league last year. I think like I was trying to solidify my quarterback 3, so I don't really have to play him. I think I have Herbert and Burrow in the league, so he's just like a
cool
bye week, throw in. But man, it feels gross now.
Yeah, but I think that's like the perfect. Like, I'm assuming I don't know if you sent picks or what, but I'm assuming you didn't send anything special, So worst case, you send 112, right? I feel like
I don't think I sent future picks. I'll go find it. I'm gonna go find the trade.
I don't know. I don't think it's terrible. So mine is going to be a little controversial, but I took Jalen Hurts, and I think the biggest thing is just with Kellen Moore coming in, we saw Justin Herbert just he kind of, I wouldn't say tanked in value, but he tanked in value a little bit. Like he's all the way down at QB9, and we've seen him up at QB4 or 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the last couple of games last year, 12-18, 143 yards. Actually, we'll do this one before too. 12-10. So 3 out of the last 5 games, he was under 200 yards, 197, 143, 167. I'm going to count this one out. So 1-7 was against the Giants, and I don't think he played much of the game. I think it looked like half because he only had 55 yards. And against the Giants on Christmas Day, he put up 301 yards. So, but against Arizona and Seattle and Dallas, he did not cross 200 yards, right? And they kind of stumbled into the playoffs, and I believe they lost.
They lost to the Buccaneers.
The Bucs, yeah, 32-9, and he only put up 250 yards. Thank you, I can read. So I just think at the end, I was just struggling. So I was like, holy crap. So I just have a hard time. I just feel like he's going to continue to stumble a little bit. I do not like their head coach. I do not like Kellen Moore. Obviously, he has really good pass catchers. He can use his legs. But I think Saquon Barkley, I understand that, he's Jalen Hurts is probably the number one option, but I do think Saquon Barkley is going to be, taken away a little bit from Jalen Hurts. And then also I think the biggest thing overall, just as a team captain, I think losing Jason Kelce is a little bit bigger than what people think, right? I think Kelce kind of kept that team together because I personally don't think their head coach can, right? So we kind of saw it already. There's kind of some friction with Jalen Hurts and the head coach. So I just think kind of all those things combined with guys like below him. So on Dynasty Daddy, I'm putting the ADP Daddy on there. And so he's at QB4, right? Below him is Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson, and then Justin Herbert, right? So the reason I say I don't think he can drop too much, because I think he'll probably continue to have a solid year. He can put up good fantasy numbers because of those legs, like his running ability. But I think someone like Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in a startup, I'm going to take over Jalen Hurts every time.
So all good points. I couldn't agree with you more. And all of his really fantasy relevance came because he had 15 rushing touchdowns last season.
Yeah.
Now could he do it again? Sure, but I feel like the amount of times that the Eagles ball carriers got tackled at the 1 or 2 yard line, and he just happened to get shoved into the end zone is happened an uncharacteristically amount of times, right? Almost it's I don't foresee that even happening again unless they're trying to fall down at the 2 yard line.
Yep.
And then now, say what you want about DeAndre Swift and Boston Scott and whatever, they're not exactly a nose for the end zone. DeAndre Swift and Sharon, you probably know better than most, but he's never really been a goal line back, right? So,
but
Saquon is. So who's to say Saquon is going to get those carries now? And so
he won't be. he won't be falling down before, like he'll get it.
Yeah, he's not getting stopped at the 1. He's not getting stopped at the 2.
And I'll tell you a trade I made probably about a month ago, and I remember people kind of gave me crap for it, which and maybe rightfully so. We'll see. But I traded Jalen Hurts for Jordan Love, and I think the 210. So it was basically Hurts for Love straight up. I was trying to get rid of my last Jalen Hurts share just because I don't believe in him as an NFL quarterback, and I think once those legs go away, which we've seen on some of these Russian quarterbacks, once they go away, they fall real quick. So
that's kind of my biggest thing too. Is like I just feel like those, as he gets older, he's not going to be as good at running. And then I do think there's going to be because I don't believe in Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. We saw it with Justin Herbert. So I think that whole offense is going to be rough. Like when we get to my wide receiver, you'll see I'm kind of picking on the Eagles a little bit, but I think rightfully so. It is like, and I'm fine with it. Like I have no ties to Philadelphia, unfortunately or fortunately.
Yeah, I mean, so at quarterback 4 value, like you could probably get. I mean, would you trade him just straight up to try to get like? I mean, probably Caleb Williams probably, and maybe you can get a little plus too. But
I would. I think there's really really good weapons in Chicago. I'm not. It'd still be waiting to see on their offensive coordinator a little bit, but somebody I'd probably do more like. I would send. Like I would do Jordan Love like you did, and I would do Justin Herbert just because, and I would want a little plus obviously. And another one I would do is Kyler Murray, as I think Kyler Murray is going to continue to be more what he was, right? So all those 3 guys, like you should be able to get a plus. Like I think I wouldn't say you lost your trade a little bit, but I would think you could get a little bit more.
Value wise, I probably did, but I believe in Jordan Love way more than I believe in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, right. So I think in my QB rankings, I have Jordan Love up at QB 8, right? And I have Jalen Hurts at QB 7, just because I guess I say it. I'm a Jalen Hurts hater, right? But the 6 guys I have above him, I probably could put Justin Herbert down a little bit. But I feel like Justin Herbert's gonna come back to where he was before with Harbaugh, right? I know their wide receivers are still shaky, but I just think Harbaugh will get it there. And I know they like to run the ball, but Justin Herbert is a really good thrower, so they're not going to just have him hand the ball off, right? And so, like, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, all ahead of Jalen Hurts for me. And I think Jordan Love with another good season and Jalen Hurts with a meh season, I can put Jordan Love above him as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The hate is fair. Well said.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll punch Jalen Hurts any day. So, all right.
Who you got, Spanky?
Yeah. Let's go to another NFC East quarterback just for the funsies here. Jayden Daniels. And this one hurts a little bit because I really like Jayden Daniels as a prospect coming out, but the landing spot is pretty garbo. I think he's a good player. The concerns about him being small, I think are valid. And then the situation did not help him. So he probably has arguably one of the worst offensive lines that he's going to be playing behind. And then who is he throwing the ball to, right? Like we have Terry McLaurin, which I think is fine. I think he's a good receiver, but I don't think he's like a superstar by any means, right? Jahan Dotson might be good. He had a bunch of touchdowns his rookie year and then didn't really do anything last year. Zach Ertz is now their tight end. I know they drafted Ben Sinnott, which I think he's a really good player, but he's a rookie tight end, and they're not all Sam Laporta, right? So Zach Ertz is going to be on the field, which I think the nicest thing I can say about him, he's like late stage career Jason Witten, where he basically finds a spot in the zone and catches the ball and falls over.
I'd take it.
The running game, right? I mean, Austin Eckler, we saw what he looked like last year. Brian Robinson, who I think is a good player, but he's not going to carry the team. He's not like a special talent, right? And sorry, Holler, I know that's your boy.
It's okay.
And so it's like, and then the top it all off, you have Cliff Kingsbury, who's
that's the issue.
He's not a good play caller. Like he somehow keeps getting all these jobs, and I don't understand it. Like he never wins.
Super
games.
good
His
looking,
offenses
man.
are fine. Yeah, it's the pretty privilege.
That's it.
It's the pretty privilege. So I mean, I just don't. Tell me why am I buying into Jayden Daniels at QB2? And there's been a couple times, and I'll tell you what I've done where I've had him. I've been at like the 103 spot, and I've taken Jayden Daniels, and then I actually did it with one of the guys in the Discord, and I moved back to 104 so I could take JJ McCarthy, and then I got like an extra second on the way back, just so because I feel so much better about taking JJ McCarthy over Daniels.
Wow. I looked up there on Sharp Football Analysis. They were ranked 30th on the offensive line. I want to kind of dive in a little bit more as how they get those rankings, but their score was a 6 out of 100. So
that feels bad. I'm not a mathematician, but that feels bad.
You find my test
the
score?
Rams were a 3 for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. I'm with you a little bit, and more for me is like I was trying to pull up how many shares I have of him, but I want to go back to the rankings here. So on ADP, on Dynasty Daddy, the ADP Daddy, he's all the way up at QB 13, and for me that's a little bit high. Like he's above Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Tua, and even like I don't know. I feel more comfortable with Jared Goff than Jayden Daniels. Like I like the upside with Jayden Daniels. I feel like he has more upside for fantasy than JJ McCarthy or Drake May. But I do agree. I think JJ McCarthy is in such a better spot that like I can't fault anybody taking or wanting JJ McCarthy over Jayden Daniels. And with him being that small and having a really bad offensive line, I just feel like there's going to be a lot of growing pains.
Not to mention, he was pretty raw as a prospect. I mean, he really was just kind of a very average passer until this last season at LSU, right? Where Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas.
Yeah, both those wide receivers
bananas.
First round.
Yeah.
So,
which helps.
Yeah. You're going to look good with those wide receivers for sure.
So there's some red flags. Daniels share. I thought I had 2. Anyway.
You have how many?
Only 1. I thought I had 2.
I think I have like 4.
Yeah.
He's not my most rostered. My most rostered is Bo Nix. Let's go, baby.
My most rostered is JJ McCarthy by a large margin.
I have,
you two are wild with JJ McCarthy.
I have 5.
I may have gotten a little rowdy.
I have 5 with Jayden Daniels and JJ McCarthy and 4 of Drake May. So I kind of spread it all around with all 4 of the quarterbacks.
It's probably a healthier way to do things.
I've honestly leaned more into the spreading around of the quarterbacks, just learning from, the Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields year. Like at points you wanted all of these guys except for Zach Wilson. And then, if you didn't get out, you got screwed, and sat there holding the bag. But that's kind of how I'm entering with these quarterbacks because quarterback's super tough to scout, and it's really hard to be like, yeah, this dude is legit and it's all going to translate over to the NFL, or this dude's going to stink and it's not going to translate to the NFL at all.
So much is
Brock Purdy's a flipping NFL quarterback, and like if you looked at Brock Purdy's skill set or anything, you would be like, this dude's a garbage quarterback, man. Why do I want this guy around? But perfect landing spot, perfect situation, this, that, the other, can run an offense. That's basically what it boils down to.
So much of the quarterback is just dependent on the coaching staff around them and the skill
100%.
they have, which is why I feel like Bo Nix and McCarthy are the 2 that are set up the best. Just I think they had the best offensive minds around them to protect them in situations and not put them in a bad spot.
Let me push back on your Bo Nix thing because
please,
I'm kind of concerned about his weapons.
You're wrong.
Like you know that I love Sean Payton. I love Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton's a great coach. But and I'll trust, that he says Bo Nix is good and can run an offense, and that's great. But it's Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and we have
no problems here.
I know you see no problems here because they all went to Oregon. But no. It's just. It's kind of nerve-wracking, but, if they get the run game going and everything, it'll make everything easier for those wide receivers. There's no, you can go to Cortland Sutton, but, I don't think of Cortland Sutton as, just this awesome wide receiver one, when you need it, got to have it, it's going to be Cortland Sutton. You know what I mean?
But I think what Sean Payton does with his offenses, because really, I mean, even in New Orleans, like who did, I mean, outside of Michael Thomas, they never really had like awesome weapons, right? And I think it's more Peyton gets guys that fit a specific role in his offense, and they might not be like dominant like fantasy assets, but they fulfilled their role. So like, I mean, Marcus Colston for a long time was really like, he had his moments. I mean, they always have guys that with Drew Brees that he would make them relevant for stretches of time just because it fit the role of the offense, and it kind of rotated week to week just depending on the game plan. I think that the thing with Bo Nix for me is he executes the offense really well. And I think he's going to take what the defenses are giving him, and it doesn't necessarily matter that his weapons aren't great. Like, he's the one that I'm less worried about having weapons. Jayden Daniels, though, is the one that I am very concerned, because I think he's more reliant on his weapons making him good, whereas I think Bo Nix can kind of make the offense function around him.
Yep, I'm with you. Wes said it well. Nick's landed with one of the few coaches system I think would fit with his skill set, right? I think, like, I don't want to compare Bo Nix to Drew Brees, but like they look to me like on paper they look similar, right? And so
get the gold jacket out.
So Drew Brees and Sean Payton together were really good. So I think if it's possible, we could see the same thing. And then waiting for them to sign Mike Thomas, and there you go. Then throw it out the window. They have beautiful weapons. There you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Wide receivers.
With that wide receiver note, let's get into the wide receivers. So my dynasty sell is Keon Coleman. Upon all the research and everything, everybody was, super out on Coleman because of, he can't separate this, that, the other. If you listen to Matt Harmon, he thinks that he should play a big slot role and thinks he doesn't do anything that an X wide receiver can do. The Bills have come out and said they want Keon Coleman to be their X wide receiver, which is already like, man, that doesn't seem like a good idea. If people, people are saying like, this is just not what he does. Matt Harmon's pretty well respected on the wide receiver train. Yep. So I'm really leaning into that. And the reason that I think that he's going to be a dynasty sell is I don't think that he's going to come out and fall flat on his face, but I think it's going to be lackluster to what people are thinking they're getting in a Josh Allen wide receiver one on the Bills offense. Like, I don't think he's going to reach those heights. I don't know. I just don't see it. He can prove me wrong.
So, I mean, it's fair, right? He's not going to be Stephon Diggs. Like, he's just not. I actually think Khalil Shakir is going to be probably the most productive wide receiver in that offense. But I like Keon Coleman. I didn't like him as a prospect, but I think the landing spot's just incredible. And he's kind of that perfect big body receiver for Josh Allen, who's not the most accurate passer, but he just is like, Coleman's got to be down there somewhere and just kind of hucks up a ball and hope his dude can go up and out muscle him, right? So he's a good jump ball guy. I think he's gonna be probably one of their better like red zone threats between him and Kincaid probably. But man, I think he's in a spot where like he's gonna get so much volume, like because he just kind of has to be, right? Like they don't have anything else. Like they have Shakir, they have Curtis Samuel, who interesting enough they both kind of do the same thing. They don't really have like a big body guy, so he kind of has to fulfill that role. I know Dawson Knox is going to be involved with Dalton Kincaid, but I just think Coleman's going to be on the field. He's probably going to see about 100 targets, right? So I think just from a pure volume standpoint, whether he's good or not, like I think he's going to hold in volume. And he's about wide receiver 28 right now, so
he's down at 36, and I think that's kind of how he's been drafted. He's down at 36 in Dynasty Daddy, ADP Daddy.
Okay.
If I toggle it to KeepTradeCut, he is. Give me 1 second.
He was 28.
He is 32.
He must have
moved.
He's kind of all over.
Yeah. Right. So with being wide receiver, like we'll just say wide receiver 30, 32, right? I can kind of see it as a sell. Like maybe he comes out and falls flat on his face and things like that. But there's some like older guys that are ahead of him, right? That I think could drop a little bit. And so
sure.
But I just don't see him like I don't mind it being a sell because I just don't see him moving up at all. right? There's maybe six or seven other better rookie wide receivers that came in my opinion. And then there's just the wide receiver landscape is just there's so many young guys that are like really good wide receivers that I just don't see him moving up at all. The hype is the highest he's going to be, right? And so say he has a mediocre season, I think he can drop down a little bit, and next year we have more good wide receivers coming in. So I just think, it's going to happen again and again.
That is the danger with rookie wide receivers. So we've seen it with JSN too, right? Like if we just kind of expect these rookies to come in and just play right away and play well. And when they don't produce their first year, we kind of just throw them aside like Andy and Woody when he breaks them, just throws them in the trash.
Ouch.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin. I've seen that comp tossed out a couple of times. How many non-DT Dynasty Theory drafts have you guys done?
A good amount.
A couple. Well. So in mine, I've finally had a few kick off here and there, and in every single one, Keon Coleman has gone in the first round.
Dang.
He's higher than he does in the Dynasty Theory ones.
Yeah, that's where I get like the he's going to be a disappointment, because if you're taking him up in the first round, man, I think you're going to be disappointed. Like, what do you need to see from him? Do you need to see a wide receiver 2 season to be like, yeah, that was a good investment on Keon Coleman?
If I spend a first round pick on a wide receiver, and I want a top 24 season, basically.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he's going to be. I bet he's going to be more bottom wide receiver 3, high end 4. Which
right. So then
I think.
So and if he doesn't do that, he's going to drop down, right? So him being at wide receiver 36 right now, 32, whatever it is, I just think he's going to like drop down. So right now he's at his peak value per se. And so I think I kind of like that pick as a sell, right? Because that in other like in non-Dynasty Theory leagues, it'd be good to like sell those back end piece or those late round draft picks to maybe see if somebody wants to come up and get Keon Coleman, and then you get whoever falls there at the 201 or 202 or whatever,
like realistically, what is Coleman's ceiling, right? Like a maybe a low end wide receiver 2, like max, right? Like
and that's kind of I feel like
touchdowns.
Yeah, he's got to come out and just be gangbusters rookie of the year to
which I just don't.
I don't see it.
Not with this group that's come out. Marvin Harrison Jr. is floating out there. Like, you're not going to surpass him on a weekly basis. No way.
Yeah.
So back to
Holler.
Back to the Eagles hate. So mine's DeVonta Smith. So basically, kind of the same issues with the whole Eagles offense, right? But another thing is, I think there's guys around him that will rise. Like, he's already behind Michael Pittman. He's just one behind Michael Pittman. Nico Collins is right there. DJ Moore's right there. Zay Flowers, and then my guy that I as a buy is DK Metcalf. And so even I think someone like T Higgins, if he can stay healthy, will probably have a good season. I don't love T Higgins, but I think if he stays healthy, I think that whole Bengals offense will do better. And so I think there's guys below DeVonta Smith, like I just said, that I think can go above him. So I just think right now, kind of like what we're saying with Keon Coleman, is he's kind of at his peak value, wide receiver 17, and so I just think there's guys that are around him that I think will do better. And so that's kind of why I'm kind of selling DeVonta Smith, unless I'm getting a cheap buy, right? And even somebody like, I don't love Xavier Worthy overall, but him tied to Patrick Mahomes, like I just think it's a possibility that he can be, if he has a better season than DeVonta Smith, he could be up above him as well.
DeVonta Smith was really frustrating to own last year too.
Yeah, last year he was rough.
His game log was like, when he scored and he went off, it was great. But there were far too many. 4 catches, 28 yards, 1 catch, 6 yards, 5 for 44, 4 for 49, 3 for 30, no touchdowns in any of those. Like, there were far too many games where it was just like, he was almost worthless, right? He had his fair share of over 100 in a touch games too, but this goes to just, I think, Jalen Hurts as a inconsistent passer, and AJ Brown is the guy there. So you have a not necessarily like a super high passing volume team with a kind of a inconsistent passer and the second option on that team, and arguably third, depending on how Dallas Goedert's being involved that week. So man,
let me see some
Smith
recent
is
trades.
always really like his value always seems a lot higher than I feel like he's going to produce.
Exactly.
Kind of similar to like DJ Moore for a long time, or like Michael Pittman before last year, and just some of those guys where you're kind of hoping, like Terry McLaurin's like a good example too. Like you're kind of just like hoping because the talent's there, but it's just like it's not happening.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to read off these trades just because they're like just just jumbo trades.
Yeah.
Like too many. There's not many like DeVonta Smith for a certain pick or whatever. But would you guys take what's the lowest like first round pick you would take for DeVonta Smith?
The lowest.
Oh boy.
I would probably,
or like I guess highest is a better way to put it, like anywhere between.
I would probably take the 110 for him.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Because then I feel pretty confident I can get like Xavier Worthy or
some
kind of receiver that or like McConkey, or if I want to take Brian Thomas Jr., if I want to roll the dice there. I feel like I can take another receiver that's might be able to produce with DeVonta Smith.
Yep.
And reset the clock. So,
and then like, I don't know if people would do this, but would you move DK Metcalf, or would you move DeVonta Smith for DK Metcalf straight up?
Straight up, yeah, I'll take DK over DeVonta.
Same.
I think I did that in our league we just drafted. I'm pretty sure DeVonta was there.
Yeah.
DK.
Yep.
I would do
it as well.
Actually. Yeah, I agree on DeVonta Smith. There's too much boom bust to him at this point, and we've kind of all hammered home the Kellen Moore offense tied to Jalen Hurts. Like it's not the greatest thing. He's got to be super efficient with what little touches he can get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly though, but I still think like I need to have a shot at like getting Rome Odunze at like the back, like at 108 or a 107. Like I don't think it'll happen, but like I know that Slim Reaper's good, man. Like you know what I mean? Like that's the problem.
Would you tack on any like a third?
I would throw a third
right?
on. That's fine.
Yeah, I would too. Or what about a second?
Depends on the second.
Cool. Yeah. I like DeVonta Smith, but I just worry about the whole offense and like you said, Spanky, like DJ or AJ Brown is the number one guy. There's just too many times last year, and this is where I kind of went back and thought about it. There's too many times last year that he put up a dud for him to be up there in the top 20.
Yeah, it's definitely fair. It's definitely a conversation to be had. Should we move on to McSpanky's guy?
Yeah. So speaking of Rome Odunze, that's who I want to talk about. And this is strictly because, and I feel like I'm crapping over the rookies, and I don't mean to be. It's happening. So he is one of those. I think he was an awesome prospect, and obviously he's a top 10 pick, right? So that's fantastic. The problem is he now has a rookie quarterback throwing him the ball, Caleb Williams, who I think will be good. But also, I mean, DJ Moore's there, Keenan Allen's there, DeAndre Swift's a good pass catcher, Cole Kmet's a good receiving tight end. There's a lot of options, receiving options in that offense. And Shane Waldron's coming over from Seattle. He didn't really show that he was capable of supporting that many receiving options. Really, last year it was DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba got just left out in the cold, right? Just begging for someone to open the door for him. Just didn't get used, right? And
they gave him all those screens.
Yeah. And see, that's the problem, right? So we just talked about how when rookie wide receivers don't produce year one, they immediately drop in value. I mean, Rome Odunze is basically up there as like a top 15 wide receiver right now. I think he's like wide receiver 12 is when I looked up. This is what he was, and like there's just almost no way he's going to be able to produce at that level to keep him there. So in the way I'm looking at Rome right now is I almost feel like if you're drafting him, just know his value is going to take a dump year one, right? It's almost going to have to go down to probably, I would imagine, like low 20s, right? Like 20 to like 24, somewhere in that range. So he's almost like a potential buy for next year after his volume takes a hit, because I just don't think he's going to get the production, like the fantasy production this year one, right?
Yeah.
So I have a hard time. I like this one because I have a really hard time having DJ Moore below him, right? Rome Odunze is up at wide receiver 15. DJ Moore is at wide receiver 19. Like I don't think
there's no way.
I know Rome Odunze is a good wide receiver. He's coming in. He's a really good wide receiver, but that by no means do I think he's going to come in and be a better wide receiver than DJ Moore. I just think DJ Moore knows exactly what he's doing. He's been there for, been in the NFL for 4 or 5 years. And so I just think that's going to be Caleb's number one target. And so
he didn't go to the basketball game though.
I saw that.
I saw that. Yeah.
I
saw that.
Rome Odunze also already has a tight hamstring.
So he's learning too much from Keelan Allen, unfortunately. So but I think that right there is the perfect example. Like it's just right now he's not a buy that I want at all, because like he's just super right now. His value is inflated.
And I mean, part of it too. And so Wes brought up a good point in the chat. Like until Kenny gets hurt again, then Rome could possibly be the wide receiver 2, and that's great. But like we're also still banking on Caleb Williams being able to support that like many high end receiving options, or because I mean if you look at where these guys are ranked right now, like Cole Kmet's like a top 10 12 tight end. Odunze's up there like 15, DJ Moore's at like 20, DeAndre Swift's like a top like 15 running back. Like how are we supporting that off? We're putting a lot of faith in a rookie quarterback to support this many off. Like this just feels like a classic. We're all buying in too hard on the Bears, and they're gonna just the classic let down, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, unless he's CJ Stroud, which I've seen that argument so many times where people are like, "Oh, CJ Stroud did it." I'm like, yeah, well, you know how often rookie quarterbacks do that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Him and like Justin Herbert are the two I can think of off the top of my head that actually had a good like year one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. We just did mixed bankies. Yeah, let's get into these running backs here. My sell is Kyren. If you can, at a higher value at this point, because of Corum coming in, we don't know exactly what that split is going to entail and or look like. I've been thinking a lot about, maybe Sean McVay learned from Todd Gurley and running him just absolutely until the wheels fell off. Let's, get another guy in here and start spelling him so we can continue this for a lot longer. I think a drop is in store. We have the 25 running backs coming. People, will be all excited and hot and bothered for those rookies. See the landing spots for them. Kyren coming off a split, I don't know. I do still think that he has a really, awesome season. You can't go away from him. But if that split's bigger than what people are expecting, you could definitely see some panic.
Yep. I like it. I mean, I really like Kyren for fantasy, but I just think Corum's going to cut into that work. And I think the more we get closer to the season, the less you're going to get for him. And then once the games kick off, I just think they're going to use they're going to use Blake Corum. So I don't know how much, but they're going to use him. And so I think Kyron's going to have to take a step back a little bit. And so for you to get the most value out of, or the most value, but like to sell him would be now.
Definitely. So, I mean, he had like almost 270 total touches when you factor in rush attempts and catches last year, which I think there's no way he's going to hit that again. Like, and that was just purely a product of, there was no one else in that backfield. It was
right.
Kyren was the only one a lot of times that was should have been like on an NFL roster. And so Blake Corum's a good running back in its own right. So I fully expect him to take away some of those carries. Blake Corum also is a really good, red zone runner, right? So it's a goal line. So if he starts taking away some of those kind of high value touches as well, Kyren could very easily start to creep down. This feels eerily similar to how Kenneth Walker started to go down after Zach Charbonnet came into town, and I think Corum's a better runner than Charbonnet is.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and
I really
think
like
he ran Charbonnet out of town.
Yeah, and Kyren's worse than that's fair. And Kyren is worse than Kenneth Walker is. So I think Kyren is definitely, he was one of my bigger sells this offseason before the draft, because they were going to take someone. And it's unfortunate they took someone as good as Blake Corum, because Holler said, I love Kyren Williams. I don't think this is going to end well. I think he's only going to go down. And, Ron, you mentioned too, the rookies that we're hot and bothered for next year. There's some good ones out there that are going to come in. So
yes, there are.
For as bad as this running back class was, the next year is fantastic. It's just the opposite, just fantastic. So,
yep, I couldn't agree more. Getting into some more Debbie leagues, and yes, indeed, they are going to be good.
Who's your running back, Holler?
My running back is Josh Jacobs. One more year closer to that running back cliff. They drafted Marshawn Lloyd. I talked about he was one of my buys last week, and so I just think. Another thing is they made they signed up to kind of a weirder contract where they can get it out after 1 year. So I think they also believe okay, he's close to that cliff. So, and even so, they use multiple running backs in Green Bay. They kind of always have. And so I just think he's not going to have that. He hasn't been the same since he had the holdout, right? So I think that was 2 years ago now. He had that really, really good season. Then he wanted a bunch of money. And then last year he was okay. I know he had some injuries, but he was okay. And so him being up all the way out at RB12, I just think is pretty high. And so I think he might start out the season all right. But I think, I would move him if he has a 1 or 2 good games, I'd move him,
What do you think you can realistically move him for? Because I agree. I don't think he hasn't looked the same since he got paid.
That's the hard part.
It's weird how that happens.
Right? And yeah, actually, let me go back to my notes here. But I think I found something that overall second contract running backs do not usually they rarely work out on their second team. So I wish I had some names to throw out, but I just you can I don't have names off the top of my head, but I just have some a vision of multiple guys on their second contract not being good.
So I have some names, so we can jump ahead a little bit, because my guy was Joe Mixon, which is a similar argument that I was going to put in here. So basically, running backs who their teams let them leave in free agency and they choose not to re-sign them, basically always suffer some kind of worse efficiency numbers. So just last year alone, so teams that players who left in free agency, Jamal Williams was one. So he went from a yards per attempt of 4.1 in Detroit down to 2.9 in New Orleans. Miles Sanders went from 4.8 in Philly down to 3.3 in Carolina. Singletary, even Devin Singletary, who did well, right? He went from 4.6 yards per attempt in Buffalo down to 4.1 in Houston. Damian Harris went from 4.4 down to 4.1. Now he also got hurt. Now he's retired. And then the one who actually did better was David Montgomery, who went from 4.0 yards per attempt to 4.6. But
common denominator is the Lions' offensive line there. If you look at the Jamal Williams line.
Exactly. So the point, really, the main takeaway from that is, who better knows where some of these running backs are at with their bodies than the teams who they're currently rostered. And if they say, we're just going to let you kind of go, that kind of says a lot. So, I mean, Vegas, with Josh Jacobs, right? They said, we have Zamir White, we have Zeus. We're good here. You can go. We don't need to pay you, right? We have a guy that we think, can be a solid runner. And then in Cincinnati too, I think technically Joe Mixon got traded before, but they were going to release him. And then Houston's like, wait. Let me just give you a little something here. So, I mean, they basically let him walk too. So these are two guys that I just don't think. I think they're basically set up to, historically, they're going to drop in efficiency numbers, and they might still be valuable. But I think these are two guys where we're not looking at them thinking, they're theoretically looking at it. They're in better situations, right? Like the Packers offense and the Texans offense are better. But I just would be wary that they're gonna falter.
I tried to pull up some trades. I didn't really like any of them, but one, Josh Jacobs for Marquise Brown is 1 QB, 12 team, start 9. I mean, that's seems about okay value, right? Josh Jacobs for Troy Franklin and a 25 second. That's a 12-team Superflex. One other one was Terry McLaurin, Josh Jacobs for Jake Ferguson, Christian Kirk, and 2024 307. I don't like that one actually. I would take that's not enough for me. So yeah, I just think right now he's a tough sell. So you're not going to really get what you want from him. So that's why I say wait. He probably will have a couple good games and then ship him off then.
Joe. So speaking of tough sells, have you guys tried to move Joe Mixon?
No,
I have not. Unfortunately,
my God, he might
to.
just die on my rosters.
Yeah.
You cannot give that dude away, which is unfortunate because I don't think he's going to do well.
Let's see if I can pull anything up here.
I took him in some startups, but I was really prepared for I am competing with Joe Mixon, and after he's done, he's just gonna be done. On my roster, that was totally baked into the choice with Joe Mixon.
The thing that's concerning to me too with Joe Mixon is that the Bengals had cap space. They had a top 10 amount in the league of cap space. Now I know they need to re-sign Jamar Chase, but they could have re-signed Mixon if they wanted to, and they didn't. Which is
so that's
and he looked bad last year too. He looked like he was starting to slow down. So
one that I saw here, 2025 round 2 for Joe Mixon, Rashad White for Joe Mixon in 2025 round 2. I would scoop up. I'm not a big Rashad White guy, but I'd scoop up Rashad White for that. He's down bad. Joe Mixon and a third for Jalen Polk. Holy moly.
Yeah, he is almost impossible to move.
Joe Mixon for Zach Charbonnet. Woo.
Yeah, he's so thank you.
Yeah, so I'd rather just have Joe Mixon. If you kind of pass on running backs, he's somebody that you can get late in a startup as well. So I don't mind because I think he'll be okay. He'll be RB3 range, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean he should be fine. I think the wheels are coming off there.
And
absolutely. When they start coming off for running backs, they can come off pretty quick. So unless you're Derrick Henry.
Yes, they can. Yeah, right. He's just a guy.
Only one of those.
Nature man, dude. So, wow.
Right. Should we rapid fire some tight ends here?
Yeah, real quick here. I put Kittle is my cop-out answer. The tight end landscape is just such if you catch enough touchdowns, you can be a top 12 tight end.
Sure.
And I just, the volume to go around in San Francisco, there's so many people that need to get fed, and he's still going to have his boom games, but, another year older, we'll see what Brock Bowers does. We'll see what the rookie class brings us. And I just think he just slowly ticks his way down,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm with you. Yeah, he's all the way up at tight end 9. Mine's Cole Kmet. I just think it's getting busy there in Chicago. He's probably at best option number 4. I know Swift isn't this great, running back altogether, but he does catch passes. So he could maybe even be option number 5, right? Because if you have Odunze, Allen, DJ Moore, and Swift, then he's number 5, right? So I just think there's some better options that you can get there. I've seen him going a little higher than in some startups, and he's tight end 13 on ADP Daddy. So but the guys below him I don't love either. So I would, I just think he's not going to produce this year.
He's in a bad spot unless he scores a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Which I don't know how many touchdowns are going to be going around there either. So
right.
A little bit of a bummer. All right, my guy here is David Njoku. So he was bonkers last year. He did really well, but a lot of that was when Deshaun Watson was not playing. It was with Joe Flacco and some of their other cast of characters they threw in at quarterback. So just real quick, in the 5 weeks that he played with Deshaun Watson, he had 1 touchdown in those 5 games, and he averaged 4 catches for 35 yards, which is not going to get it done. In the games that he played without Deshaun Watson, he had 5 touchdowns. He averaged 5.5 catches, so almost 2 catches more per game and 65 yards a game. So over 30 more yards per game without Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson's now back. Deshaun Watson's real bad. Is really the takeaway there. So I think he's going to drag everyone down with him, including David Njoku, unfortunately. So.
Yep. I like that one.
Man. When you guys want to get into the 2-minute drive, I see that McSpanky's got some burden.
I had something because this came up in the Discord and I got confused about it yesterday. So basically, is being injury prone a thing? And I would tend to lean to say no. I don't think there's any data that really supports that. Just because a guy got hurt last year, he's more likely to get hurt this year. Now, if the one caveat is like if you pull a hamstring, in training camp, you are more likely to have that hamstring, re-aggravated throughout the season. But that's more like an existing injury, not because this happened the year before, right? Like just because a guy, like there are countless times, like Christian McCaffrey for a while he couldn't stay healthy, right? And then now look at him, like he's barely missed any time. Raheem Mostert is the one that actually started this whole conversation because everyone remembers he tore his ACL like twice within 3 years. But since then, he's played 16 games and 15 games the last 2 years. He's barely missed any time. So it's just like, just because like anybody's capable of getting, bad injury luck. Matthew Stafford for the first couple of years, Ron, you know this better than anyone. I mean, the dude was a man of glass, right? His shoulders just kept dying on him. And then now look at the dude, like he barely misses any time. He's an Iron Man. So it's just like, I don't think it's a real thing. And I don't think it's a valuable thing to base your drafting on. I was like, oh, the starter's gonna, he always gets injured, so I'm gonna take his backup. Like that's fine, but I think there are better ways of looking at drafting players.
Yep, I'm with you. I like to pick up players that are like have a better pathway to actually getting touches and getting catches and things like that. So anybody can catch the injury bug. I think it's more of an injury bug than an injury prone thing. I just think it's more of a luck thing than anything.
Sure.
So that means it's J.K. Dobbins' time, right?
Could be.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
Now the thing with him though is that like Achilles, they do last.
Yeah.
That one is a little more concerning, but we shall see.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
That's it.
Get out of here.
For me. All right. See ya.
Peace.
Peace out.